Southern California was a beautiful place. Small towns, orange groves, mustard fields, and then the metropolis of Los Angeles. We had the finest transportation system in the world. Electric trains, you could go anywhere. San Bernardino, Santa Monica. My dad commuted to work from South Pasadena every day of his life. We'd have
mankind's moved across the face of the earth like a great unthinking, unfeeling cancer, and that the most humane thing for me to do would be to have no children at all. I was a media figure overnight. It was personal. I said, I'm not going to have a child. This is very serious. And I was a woman saying it.
All right.
The world, and everybody will understand we need to see a photograph of the whole Earth, and when we do, everything will be different. So I printed up a bunch of these buttons, and I went around to various universities and sold the buttons for 25 cents a piece. I sent them to Buckminster Fuller and Marshall McLuhan and all those senators and their secretaries that I could find. I sent them to various professionals in NASA and Politburo members in Russia. I just, floated this stuff out there, see what would happen.
At that time, in the late 60s, the whole Earth catalog became kind of the Sears catalog of the Back to the Land generation, with this intelligence behind it of Stewart's. Stewart's motto was, we are as gods, and we might as well get good at it. Rachel Carson was incredibly scrupulous in the creation of Silent Spring. She understood that we are organisms as much as the birds whose songs were being silenced. She wrote not only a tremendously informative book, but an incredibly moving book. And she did it while she was suffering from cancer.
There was a controversy that raged really until her death. It was still going on, and that was kind of sad, because she was a shy person. She was not a crusader. She was a scientist.
There appears to be growing concern among scientists as to the possibility of dangerous long-range side effects from the widespread use of DDT and other pesticides.
President Kennedy's Science Advisory Group
to try to bring the carbon cycle back into balance. Principles of ecology to the way we build our cities, to the way that we manage our agricultural system, to the way that we make industrial processes. I was literally awake all night, excited about this thing, and got up the next morning knowing what I was going to do. I was going to come back to the United States, I was going to become engaged in political activity, and I was going to be trying to see if I could somehow insert this.
Big issues like preserving the Everglades and not putting an airport there. The National Wildlife Federation was right in the forefront of this. There was a big proposal for dams in the Grand Canyon. Can you imagine damming the Grand Canyon? And this was raised into a big national issue, particularly by the Sierra Club. And I was persuaded as Secretary of Interior that the project should be abandoned.
Nuclear fallout from atmospheric nuclear tests. When I was born,
Strontium-90 didn't exist. By the time I was a teenager, every living creature on the planet had strontium-90 in its bones or its shells. That's a fairly profound change. And we'd done it.
It felt to me like the preciousness of life was imperiled. Subconsciously, bear in mind that as a child, I was, trained to hide under my desk in the event of a nuclear explosion. Living with the possibility of the bomb is foundational.
It was the epitome of human creation and creativity to have developed this incredibly destructive thing.
We're going to live in by the year 2000. Where 180 million Americans now live, by the year 2000, there will be 350 million of them.
Either we stop the poisoning in our air, or we become a nation in gas masks, groping our way through the dying cities and the wilderness of ghost towns that the people have evacuated.
The great question of the 70s is,
environmental problems didn't really impress themselves on it. It wasn't clear that we had any very serious problems.
Americans want to believe in a future that is expanded.
This was the first generation that had acquired the power of a geophysical force that could cause brand new radioactive substances to be disseminated.
That we must never interfere, that we must not attempt to tilt that balance of nature in our favor. But when we do make this attempt, we must know what we're doing. We must know the consequences.
There was an ugly backlash after the book came out. The chemical industries were calling her a hysterical woman that didn't know what she was talking about.
the major claims in Miss Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring, are gross distortions of the actual facts, completely unsupported by scientific experimental evidence.
It is very fragile. Really came out of Rachel Carson's book. Silent Spring sounded the alarm that we were destroying the life support system of the planet.
From the outside, you can look back. The child now sees its mother. We human beings, we this life form on this incredible planet, is coated with life.